Hello everyone, my name is Sam. Welcome to my channel. This is my first YouTube video for this channel, and this video I want to do like a short introduction to tell you a little bit about me, where I'm from, how I got started and what I do basically. So I want to give you a little bit of a background story about myself. At the minute I'm 27 years old. We're in Alicante. This is where I live now in Spain. I was born in England and I moved out to Spain when I was really young. My parents came out, so I didn't really have a choice to come to Spain. So I've ended up staying here. And what I do is I invest in property here. The property here is quite cheap. So what I've done is I started investing in property. And I didn't really start taking life seriously until I was 22. So when I was 18, 19, 20, I did have a job and I used to work and I just used to blow all the money. I didn't save any money at all. But when I was 22, I moved to Alicante, and that's when I really started to realize that I didn't really want to be in the same situation as everyone else. I just used to see everyone else was just working just to pay the rent and just to go out, and no one was actually moving forward at all. And it's just like a circle, like a vicious circle, and I didn't want to be part of that anymore. So flashback to when I was 22 years old, I just arrived in Alicante. I didn't have anything at all. I couldn't even find a place to rent because here they're quite strict. They don't let anyone just rent an apartment. So I couldn't find anywhere to rent. I had only my car with me. My car's worth about 3,000 euros and I didn't have anything else at all. So I managed to persuade someone to let me rent their very small apartment in an area which was really disgusting, in a really bad area, poor area, and the apartment was pretty disgusting as well. So yeah, I found so I had somewhere to live. That was important. That was the first step completed. Then after that, I had to find a job. So I would have took any job at that minute. I just needed some income, any form of income. So every day I used to get up early and I used to go around all of the city giving out my CVs and just trying to find a job. And after about a few weeks, I found a job, and it was a waiter, waiting on tables. Yeah, it was fine, just that the hours were so long. I used to work 12 to 13 hours a day, and sometimes didn't even have one day off at all. Used to work 7 days a week. It was crazy, and it really made me open my eyes, because the people who used to work around me, other waiters from ages 20 to 30, they all have families, they have children, and they just used to work 12, 13 hours a day just to survive, just to feed their families. And it made me think, I don't want this for me. I don't want this for my future. I want something more out of life than just to work like this every single day, 12, 13 hours a day just to survive. So it really is a vicious circle that I was desperate to get out of. So what I started doing was, I realized that in Alicante and in Spain in general, in these cities, smaller cities, the property is pretty cheap. Like if you start comparing to England prices, London prices, the property in Spain is pretty cheap and the return on investment is pretty good. So what I started to do was, I started to save all the money I could, like crazy. I sold my car. I had no other choice. I sold my car. I didn't need the car in a small city. I used to just work, save every penny I could, pay rent. I didn't used to go out, didn't do anything at all. No social life basically for a few years. It was just work, save money, home, and that is it. Nothing else. And I did this until I managed to save up about 30,000 euros doing this. I was earning at that time, I had a wage of about 1,200 euros a month from working as a waiter. Also I had tips, and the tips, well, I used to survive just on the tips. I used to eat at the restaurant, so I didn't have to pay much for food. So I used to eat at the restaurant and I used to save about 1,000 a month. I sold my car, so yeah, and I also sold other possessions, and in about 2 years I managed to save up 30,000 euros, and I was able then to invest in a property. And I'll tell you now about how and what I did. So as I was saving the money and I was working all these hours, I was studying the market and I was studying the areas like crazy. So I knew exactly what I had to do and what sort of property I wanted to buy. So I was looking at areas which were up and coming, and I was looking for a property which was below market value. And after a lot of time looking and searching and researching and a lot of other things that happened, which I'll do a lot of videos about all the stuff that happened in this process, people trying to rip me off, people trying to take me to court, so much stuff happened, right? But in the end, I found a property on the market and it was on for 125,000, and this was just too much for me at that time. But it was what I wanted, but it was just too much, so I didn't even get in contact with the owner, which was actually a mistake. So what happened was, one day I had an alert on my phone, notification popped up that this property had just dropped in price and it was now selling for 95,000. So this told me that this was a motivated seller, that this person really wants to get rid of that property. There was no other property around that area for that price, so I jumped straight away, and the next day I was there looking at the property. So when I went round to see the property, it was great. It was very big, it's a big apartment, it's right next to the city centre, it has loads of different options. I can do tourist rents, I can do long-term lets. It had 155 square meters, so it's really big, it has 5 bedrooms, so I really have a lot of options. So what I did was, after a little bit of negotiating, I managed to get the property for 90,000 euros. I managed to get 5,000 off as well. Now, this property, the market value of this property was about 135,000 at this time. Now, I always look for property as well where I can add some value myself, and this property had that, because recently I've just added another bathroom into the property, and also I've done a lot of other things as well. I bet now you're thinking, well, so what? So you bought one property, how does this mean that you've been successful? How is buying this property made you any money? So what I did was, because this property was so big, it had 5 rooms in total. So I moved into the property, and that's 1 room, but I had 4 rooms left over. Now, because the property was in such a good area, and it was just a 10-minute walk to the beach, and it's right next to the city centre. Remember, I didn't pay city centre price for this property because I was just on the outside, but I was able to get city centre rent. Now, what I did was, I rented this property, I rented the rooms out, the spare rooms, to tourists. So what I did, I started to make about 6,000 euros per room that year. So this was crazy to me. Now, I only started renting out 3 rooms in the first year, and I actually had another room spare. There's 5 rooms in total in this apartment. So that first year was just crazy. I instantly started making more renting out the rooms than working as a waiter. So my income just doubled. I've just created another income stream. So what happened was, I started to make all this money renting out these rooms, and the year after I rented out 4 rooms and I made 6,000 per room that year. So this was crazy money, right? And it enabled me to start saving loads more. I was saving double than what I was saving before. So this enabled me to save a lot faster, and it didn't take me long to come up with another deposit to buy another property, which then enabled me to save even more, and it just kept on happening and kept on repeating like this. So each year I'm able to buy more and more property, until the point where I'm able to buy 2 properties that year, then the next year 3 properties, because my income is just becoming bigger and bigger. So the idea of this channel is just to show you what I do, to teach you how you can do the same as me. Anyone can start with 0. I started off with 0, and now I own loads of different properties, rental properties. I'm going to show you all my properties. I'm going to show you the strategies, tips, tricks, everything that I've learned along the way to help you start building up your own portfolio of properties and be able to live financially free. So this was just a little bit of how I got started. I am planning on doing another video more in detail of exactly what I did, the exact steps of how I got started. But this was just a quick introduction so you know who I am. If you like the idea of the channel and you want to see more, remember, subscribe, give me a thumbs up on the video, and I'll see you in the next video.